Now at 9, authorities in Labette County, Kansas arrest a man for a weekend homicide. Plus, how an elementary school in Neosho, Missouri is overcoming a lack of green space and playground area near its building. And how a Carthage first grader is making sure no one gets left out at recess.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tanya Bach. Authorities in Labette County now have a suspect in custody in connection with the homicide of a woman over the weekend. 53-year-old Derek Curry of Parsons is charged with second-degree murder and interference with the judicial process to conceal or destroy evidence of a crime. Authorities say he killed 28-year-old Kylie Caldwell of Parsons on Sunday. They also say Curry and Caldwell were acquaintances.
It's our understanding that she had been going to see Curry about a personal loan on Sunday, would have been Sunday morning, early Sunday morning. She was seen there at approximately, I believe it was 4:44 in the morning, and that was the last place she was seen at, was at the apartment complex.
Caldwell's body was found Sunday afternoon in a field near the intersection of 20,000 Road and Ness Road in rural Labette County. KBI was called in to assist and found evidence she had been murdered. The Joplin Police Department responded to reports of a man with a walker on I-44 late last night. When authorities arrived, they say 56-year-old Andrew Garrett of Joplin was struck by a semi. Garrett died at the scene. Chief Meteorologist Doug Hetty joining us now with a first look at your forecast.
Well, it definitely turned out to be another warm one for us today. A few isolated little showers out there, but 86 for a high, started at 66. 78 is our average high. 95 was the record set back in 1953. Still fairly warm. Most of us are sitting low to mid 70s. Still some upper 70s once you get out across southeastern Kansas, but we look pretty good. We're pretty quiet. Couple little showers kind of rotating across southern parts of Missouri. Besides that, we're going to be quiet for us tonight. So 70 by 11 down to 65 by 7 a.m. I think 65 will be our overnight low. Plenty of sunshine once again tomorrow. Back to 77 by 10 a.m. When are we going to see some rain in the forecast? We're going to look at that here in just a little bit.
Rise Elementary School in Neosho found a creative strategy to overcome the lack of green space and playground area around their new school building. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has the story.
From the scenic park in Neosho, it is not hard to know when it is recess time at Rise Elementary. The sound of the school buses arriving comes first, followed by the kids' shouts of excitement. Divided by grade levels, the Rise students get to spend 30 minutes in the park. While this is a temporary strategy to overcome the lack of green space around their school building, the school's principal feels like their approach is working well.
It is beautiful. It is perfect for our needs. It has bathrooms. It has swings. It has just playground equipment.
Every day, about 230 Rise Elementary School students come to this park for their recess. Besides playing the playground, they also have a soccer and a kickball field to enjoy.
Kids love it. I've actually wondered and teased some of the teachers that they may not want to come to our own playground once we have it, because that park is so beautiful. It's shady, it's got lots of trees, it's a beautiful setting.
According to third grade teacher Alicia Durst, the recess is also a learning opportunity for students.
For one of our experiences, we were able to go to the park and look at different leaves and different trees, and they were thinking like a scientist.
Rise Elementary School is a STEAM school. That means that they focus on science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics.
Everything's still the same. Focus is on reading, but they may be getting taught reading through science text perhaps, instead of a different type of text. It might be with science.
To make sure students are safe on what feels like a daily field trip, the school set down guidelines with them.
Where they can and cannot go. We've talked about rules, safety, and procedures over the first 2 to 3 weeks of school.
When the 30 minutes are over, the whistle blows, and the students load the buses to go back to their school building. In Neosho, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
Rise Elementary is working with the district to find a solution and get a green space near the school. Well, grant money flows into a Joplin nonprofit organization. The American Water Charitable Foundation and Missouri American Water Today presented a check for $5,000 to Bright Futures Joplin. Money will allow Bright Futures Joplin to provide weekend food, clothing, and school supplies to Joplin students with difficult economic challenges.
Very far, especially when buying food for our snack packs and for helping us fill immediate student needs like clothing, coats, shoes. We rely entirely on our community support, so this is huge.
State strategic impact grants are part of an AWCF's Keep Communities Flowing grant program focused on 3 pillars of giving: water, people, and communities. Well, kids at Studley Elementary got themselves a brand new place to sit. KOAM's Anthony Saviello tells us why this new buddy bench is so special.
For kids who may struggle to develop friendships, the playground can sometimes seem like the loneliest time during the day. However, for students at Carthage Studley Elementary, those lonely playtimes might be a thing of the past.
We read a story about a buddy bench and how if children need somebody to play with, they can go sit on the buddy bench, and then that helps the other children to know that they want a friend or they're feeling left out. So they know that if they look at the buddy bench, that's somewhere that they can go and find somebody to play with.
This new bench provides a great opportunity for friendships to spark and kids to encourage one another. But who is to thank for the buddy bench making it to Studley? Well, none other than first grader Bo Whitehead and his dad Flint.
It gave me an idea to talk about it and see if we could get one for our school and see if we could use it.
He thought that was a great idea. The class had talked about it, and so it was something that he thought would be really cool, something that they could have. And then they talked to Dr. Northup about it, and the more that he kind of talked about it, the more the wheels in my mind started turning, and I knew that we had a couple of these benches, so if it was something that we could make happen, we're always more than happy to be able to do that. And as a parent, it's pretty cool to see that from your kids.
And thanks to this pair, kids at Studley Elementary will always have the opportunity to have a buddy by their side. Reporting in Carthage, Anthony Saviello, KOAM News.
Bo went on to say he hopes to see a buddy bench at every school in the state. Well, a philanthropic group awards more than $18,000 to 23 nonprofit organizations in Crawford County. Future Fund Giving Circle is comprised of community members from Crawford County who pool their resources to make a difference. Since its inception in 2006, the Future Fund Giving Circle has awarded more than $170,000 in grants. To see the full list of the recipients, you can check out our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, folks in Pineville today went to church for some live music. It's part of Jesse James Days, which kicked off today. The First Baptist Church hosted a gospel night. There were also other activities, including vendors, bounce houses, a mechanical bull, and frisbee throws.
So Jesse James Day celebrates the 1939 movie Jesse James that was filmed right here in Pineville. A lot of the residents were actually extras. A lot of McDonald County residents were in the movie. It was shot right here in town. So we like to come together, celebrate that, celebrate the success that the movie had, and give back to the community.
Well, the fun continues through Saturday. Other events include a pageant, a softball tournament, a parade, and a poker run. Coming up, putting focus on recovery.
It is National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and a big focus is being put on mental health for survivors. I'm Alexandria Hoff in Washington. I'll have the details coming up.
We're getting better at treating cancer, which means there are more cancer survivors, especially children. But what happens after that treatment is over? Fox News correspondent Alexandria Hoff has more from Washington on a new focus on mental health.
The battle is never over with cancer.
September is National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and major advances in treatment means more children are becoming cancer survivors, not victims. But the mental health and physical appearance of those survivors has generally been a low priority until now. Reality TV star Shauna Ray survived a bout with childhood cancer that left her trapped in a child's body.
I'm a woman, a 22-year-old woman.
Now she's teaming up with insurance giant Aflac to shine a light on the challenges childhood cancer survivors face after their treatment's over.
Survivorship in battling cancer has a physical toll, but it also has social, mental, and emotional tools that we don't highlight as much, that need just as much attention.
She says the two biggest keys are ending the stigma against adults struggling with the after effects of childhood cancer and raising awareness of the need for more support systems for kids while they're being treated.
We have a large percentage of survivors, but now they're living with afflictions or disabilities or just permanent problems, and we need to focus on that and have empathy towards that.
And the effort is also getting a big boost from the White House. President Biden and the First Lady highlighting the need to treat the emotional damage caused by cancer.
Cancer is daunting and complex. And when someone who knows the system is by your side every step of the way, it changes everything.
About 85% of American kids with cancer now survive 5 years or longer. In Washington, Alexandria Hoff, Fox News.
AI is increasingly used in medicine, but a new report says doctors may still do a job better. The Radiological Society of North America says in a study of 2,000 chest x-rays, radiologists outperformed AI identifying common lung diseases. Researchers say AI tools can assist doctors in interpreting x-rays, but AI's accuracy making real-life diagnoses remains unclear. Well, common misconceptions about carbs and exercise could be causing health problems for athletes. A study published in the British Medical Journal found sports culture has led many athletes to not eat enough carbs and to overtrain. That can lead to relative energy deficiency in sport, or REDS, which causes reduced muscle function, weakened bones, and even mental health issues like depression. Well, Doug is next with a complete look at your forecast. And later, the Miami War Dogs hit the softball diamond today for regionals. Sports director John Dales will have highlights from their game against Dewey.
Well, it turned out to be another warm one for us today. Temperatures back up into the mid to upper 80s for afternoon highs. Very consistent the past couple days. Looks good right now. Here's a nice shot. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. All right, so we move into November next week. So only our northern states usually get a frost this early, but our average first frost doesn't mean it's going to happen at this time, but our average one moves in right about late October. Usually the last week of October is when we usually see our first frost, but we do have cooler weather moving in about 10 days, which is going to be nice. All right, so sitting into the low to mid 70s, still upper 70s in our western counties. We can go outside, 7th and range line. 73 visibility is good. Southerly winds are light at about 5 miles per hour. We had a weak little front, kind of slid in today, is now lifting back toward the north. You can see the wind shift line right through our northern counties, and as it lifts back toward the north, we actually warm up again a little bit for us tomorrow. Down to 65 tonight. We start with sunshine again tomorrow morning. We look fine right now. I had a few little showers kind of skirt on by earlier this evening. Nothing going on here. In fact, the entire Central Plains overall is looking pretty good. Got this little storm system rotating off toward the east, the Great Lakes, and then out to the west. Not much going on. That's our weather as we go through the next few days. Let me step you through your next 48 hours. For us tonight, we dip back 62 Lamar, 63 in Miami, 62 in Pittsburgh, Bella Vista, down to about 64. Mid 80s by noon. Once we get into the afternoon, near 90, 90 in Stockton, Welch 91, Fort Scott 91, Neosho about 88 degrees. Tomorrow night looks fine. Again, mid 60s. And then as we go into Friday, much of the same, high temps, upper 80s, to near 90 degrees. All right, day planner for your Thursday. 65 in the morning, 84 by noon, 89 for a high. Plenty of sunshine all day long. In fact, we can jump into Friday evening. Of course, we have Friday night high school football for kickoff, about 81 degrees, 75 by the 4th. A little bit on the warm side, but still, it's going to be a nice night. All right, high pressure is in charge. That's why we're staying mainly dry and also warm. We're in the part of the pattern that we had triple digits back over the summer, but this is the very end of the pattern. New pattern is taking shape. We've been morphing into it, and we'll start to see some changes here over the next couple weeks. Upper 80s, next few days into the weekend, and then finally some rain chances next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
We'll take that, yeah. Like those temperatures are finally dipping down there.
Yeah,
I like
dipping down
it.
a little bit.
At 52 at night. We'll take that.
All right.
All right, thanks, Doug. Well, coming up, new rules for ticket resales.
If you made good money by reselling tickets this year, get ready to pay up in taxes. I'm Jerry Willis in New York, and I'll have more on the new IRS rule that could impact you coming up.
The U.S. government is working to restore sweeping regulations for high-speed internet providers. Under the proposed rules, the FCC would designate internet service as essential communications akin to traditional telephone services. As an essential service, internet service providers would be banned from blocking or slowing down access to websites and online content. As Generation Xers approach retirement, many are worried they haven't set aside enough money. Gen Xers, who are now in their 40s and 50s, account for about 1/5 of the U.S. population. Their median amount saved for retirement is only $40,000. Financial planning experts say there is still time for many to make up for lost time and savings, but a number will have to face the prospect of working longer and pursuing a later retirement around age 70. The IRS is making a move that could impact a large number of Americans who resell tickets to concerts and sporting events. Fox Business Network's Jerry Willis has the details from New York.
Looking to resell those tickets you bought to a concert or a sporting event? Well, the IRS will be taking a closer look at the transaction. The agency implementing a new law that lowers the tax threshold for users of certain platforms like Ticketmaster and StubHub. The platforms must now provide the IRS with information if the seller's ticket resales in 2023 are worth more than $600. And that's a big change from the previous threshold of $20,000 in more than 200 transactions. Now, just a single transaction could trigger a flag.
Well, there's a lot of money to be made in this area. Clearly, the model that's being used now is broken.
Taxpayers who hit the $600 max will be sent a 1099-K form to report the money they've made from sales on their 2023 taxes. Sellers will owe additional taxes only if they made a profit by selling tickets for more than they originally paid. The new changes stemming from a revenue-generating measure in the American Rescue Plan Act. It's been a massive year for resales, with soccer fans flocking to see Lionel Messi, Beyoncé's Renaissance Tour, and, of course, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour.
What we need to do is make sure that the scalpers, the bots, can't jack up those prices to exorbitant levels.
According to StubHub, the average price for Swift tickets that were resold by fans was more than $1,000. In New York, Jerry Willis, Fox Business.
Up next, we'll learn how you can vacation like an all-star at Shrek's Swamp. Whoever said fairy tales can't come true? Airbnb is trying to make one fantasy story very real for people just in time for Halloween. It has recreated Shrek's Swamp in the Scottish Highlands. Guests can light earwax candles, sit around a fire, and enjoy Donkey's freshly made waffles for breakfast. Interested guests can request a 2-night stay starting October 13th. Up to 3 people will then get to visit the unique home October 27th through October 29th. Pretty cool. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports is coming your way.
The House and the Senate may be past the point of no return to avoid a government shutdown by early Sunday morning. I'm Mather Rivera in Washington, and I'll explain why coming up.
Plus, residents of the town of Lahaina search through the ashes of their community decimated by wildfire. The Senate and the House appear to be talking past one another in an effort to avoid a government shutdown. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says the Senate package is dead in the House. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera reports on the negotiations from Washington.
Throughout the country, different agencies are taking steps to make it through a government shutdown. Travelers, for instance, are being told to prepare for delays at the airport if Transportation Security Administration agents and air traffic controllers work without pay. Just one impact should federal funding run out.
The consequences would be disruptive and dangerous.
On Tuesday, the Senate advanced a bill that would keep the lights on until November 17th.
We can take the standard approach and fund the government for 6 weeks at the current rate of operations, or we can shut the government down in exchange for a zero meaningful progress on policy.
But the package has no chances of making it through the House because it has money for Ukraine, a sticking point for several Republicans. On top of that, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy wants money for the border.
I think if you want to walk and chew gum at the same time, you've got to deal with the issues before you. I want to deal with disaster, but I want to also deal with the border.
As time runs out, both sides of the aisle are playing the blame game. Democrats are accusing McCarthy of turning his back on the deal he made with the president on spending levels earlier this year.
We got here because Speaker Kevin McCarthy went back on his word.
McCarthy says he'll put an interim bill on the floor Friday, and the Senate could take until Saturday to pass its package. That's not enough time for the two bodies to resolve their differences and come up with a unified bill before the government shuts down on Sunday. In Washington, Mather Rivera, Fox News.
Well, American soldier Travis King is expected to be back in the U.S. soon after being expelled from North Korea and transferred to U.S. custody in China. The Army private entered North Korea back in July while visiting a checkpoint on the demilitarized zone. He'd been serving in South Korea, was detained there after an assault conviction, and due to return in the U.S. when he entered North Korea. There's no word on why North Korea suddenly released King. Democratic Senator Bob Menendez has pleaded not guilty to all charges against him. The New Jersey senator and his wife are charged with 3 counts for allegedly taking bribes to use his political power and connections to help the government of Egypt obtain military aid. Menendez is also accused of pressuring a state prosecutor to investigate New Jersey businessmen and attempting to influence the federal prosecution of a co-defendant. Well, the long recovery process continues in Maui, with some families finally allowed to return to their properties after last month's deadly wildfire. Fox News correspondent Marianne Rafferty reports on the precautions being taken to ensure their safety and the heartfelt items some people are finding under piles of ash and debris.
One by one, residents of Lahaina continue making the painful journey back to the sites where their homes once stood after the Environmental Protection Agency began allowing re-entry to some burn zones this week.
They're finally getting some closure, which will take to the next step with some healing.
Much of the historic Maui town was off limits to anyone but authorized recovery teams after last month's deadly wildfire. The blaze killed at least 97 people and destroyed more than 2,000 structures.
And our cat, she's gone too. The cat would see us and then she would run to the front door to greet us.
Returning survivors are armed with protective suits and face masks to stop them from breathing in ash or potentially being exposed to any dangerous debris. They're beginning the agonizing process of sifting through the rubble to try and locate any personal belongings that may have survived the flames.
This is a souvenir my mom gave me when my dad passed away.
This was his police pistol.
The first thing I found was my mother's jade bracelet, and I found another jade pendant.
Only a few hundred properties have been cleared for re-entry so far. Officials say mental health professionals are helping those returning to process their grief. as many try and look toward a brighter future.
We're going to keep the property. We like to rebuild.
As other survivors wait for more zones to be cleared for re-entry, portions of West Maui are still expected to reopen to tourists on October 8th. Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.
Well, a bit later, an out-of-this-world record.
After more than a year in space, an American astronaut is back on Earth. He was supposed to be home 6 months ago, but thanks to a tiny piece of space junk, his out-of-this-world adventure got a whole lot longer. I'm Caroline Shively in Washington. I'll explain straight ahead.
Well, it definitely turned out to be a warm one for us today. Again, temperatures mid to upper 80s for afternoon highs, and it looks like that's going to be pretty consistent as we go through the next couple days. Still fairly mild right now at 74 in Bentonville, 73 in Chitopa. Chanute is still sitting at 76, 73 at Stockton Lake. Let's go outside. 7th and Rangeline, 73 south winds at about 5. Humidity is at 38%, and you can see our winds, southerly winds, but there's a wind shift line right through our northern counties. A weak little front that is lifting to the north. Everybody gets southerly winds again for us tomorrow, and our temperatures heat back up just a bit. 70 by 11, overnight low is 65. Plenty of sunshine in the morning, back into the 70s once again as we get through the morning hours, and then eventually near 90. Couple little showers skirted by. Now we look fine. We have pretty much clear skies. Few showers southern parts of Missouri due to this upper level low. Back to the west, not a whole bunch going on. That's our weather as we go through the next few days. Pretty quiet, pretty boring on my side. All right, for us tonight, dropping back lower 60s for overnight lows. By noon, we're going to be into lower 80s. Then once we get into the afternoon, pushing 90, 91 Fort Scott, Miami 91, Pittsburgh 89, 88 for a high in Carthage. Tomorrow night looks good. Once again, mid 60s. Friday, pretty much carbon copy. Sunny skies, southerly winds, high temps right around 90 degrees. Here's your day planning for you tomorrow, starting at 65, 84 by noon. 89 is going to be our high. Plenty of sunshine all day long for us tomorrow. Let's jump ahead. Let's go to Friday evening. It looks like pretty good weather. It's going to be a little warm for football. Games will kick off. They'll be in the lower 80s. We'll drop back mid 70s once we get into the fourth quarter. All right, so heat and dry, that's what we have really been seeing the past several days due to our big dome of high pressure. Until it breaks down, we're not going to get any big storm systems in here. So let's go all the way to next Tuesday. Finally, area of high pressure starts to break down. We get a storm system, kicks out, gives us rain chances late next week, and then cooler air filters in behind this storm. And this is really the beginning of our new pattern that we're going to be set in for the next 12 months. So finally, we're going to get a big change here. We've been in the same pattern since the beginning of October last year. 89 for us tomorrow. 89 is Friday, Saturday, upper 80s all the way through the middle of next week. Then cooling down. I'm being conservative here. It could be quite a bit cooler than that. Rain chances Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
All right. Well, can't complain about that. Nice temperatures, decent. Got a cool down coming, and
yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, looks good. So.
Yeah, we'll take it. All right. Well, coming up in sports, Patrick Mahomes previews the Chiefs' Week 4 matchup with the Jets. Plus, highlights from this afternoon's softball regional semifinal between Miami and Dewey. John Dales has those stories and more up next.
Miami High School softball has had a great fall season until now, leading up to the Lady War Dogs hosting an OSSAA regional tournament today and tomorrow. Now, Miami received a first-round bye in that tournament, meaning the winner of Dewey and Muldrow at noon would face the War Dogs in the semifinals at 2 o'clock. War Dogs at home, taking on Dewey, who did beat Muldrow in Game 1. Danae Green in the circle for Miami, locked in early. Gets back-to-back strikeouts in the first inning. The game stays scoreless until the bottom of the second with a runner on second. Ball gets away on ball 4, and then a throw home late. Carly Cook comes home safely from third. 1-0 War Dogs. Same score in the 5th, Hayden Pilkinson skies one to left field. That drops down, and she gets waved all the way around third to home, but perfect relay throw by the Bulldoggers cuts her down at the plate. Stays 1-0. Top of the 6th, Green in a little bit of trouble. Tying run on third, go-ahead run on second, but she gets the called strike 3 that keeps it a 1-0 ball game. Same score, top of the 7th now, 2 outs. Shatana Sutton singles up the middle. That's the tying run on base again. Next batter, Macy Smith, going the other way. Now the go-ahead run is on base for the 2nd inning in a row. Mound Visit War Dogs needing just one more out to move on to the regional finals. And Green gets a ground ball to first. That'll do it. Green goes the distance, shuts out Dewey. Miami onto the regional finals tomorrow. In pro football, the Chiefs head to the Meadowlands this Sunday. They face the Jets, who lost their starting QB in the first quarter of the first game of the season. Now, Pat Mahomes says facing this Kansas City defense is a big challenge for him, so Zach Wilson might be in for a long night on Sunday.
I would hate playing our defense, and obviously the players. I mean, they're deep at every single position right now. But the scheme and how they execute it, that's why I always say after training camp, I'm like, all right, now we can get back to regular season where I can focus on just the couple coverages that I'm going to see or the little change up here and there. Versus our defense, it's like every single play, you never know what to expect. And I think that's hard for offenses to go against. And then having a defense that, I mean, a lot of these guys have came back for the second year now or multiple years, and they have an understanding of what Spags and why he's calling stuff and what he wants. I think that's what makes it so special, and I think they're going to continue to grow and continue to get better with more and more reps.
Over to Major League Baseball, Cardinals lose a close one tonight against NL Central champion Brewers. St. Louis jumped out to a 2-0 lead early on, but couldn't hold it. They had a great opportunity with bases loaded, just one out in the 8th inning, but Ivan Herrera grounds into a double play. The series finale between these two tomorrow afternoon in Milwaukee. Meanwhile, the Royals played just 4.5 innings against the Tigers this evening before Mother Nature gets in the way. After a brief rain delay, the umpiring crew decides this game gets suspended until tomorrow. That means at 12:10, the Royals and Tigers pick things up where they left off at 4-0 in the 5th. Then a half hour after that game finishes, they play their regularly scheduled game tomorrow.
Is that at home or is that away?
That's away. That's in
Detroit.
Detroit, yes. I was just going to say, though, back to the Chiefs. Pat Mahomes is always going to say stuff like that, like our defense is great, but kind of interesting to say that, breathe a sigh of relief of, okay, now I'm in the regular season, not in training camp anymore. Things almost get a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, that's something he's got to worry about, not getting injured by his own team,
yeah.
you know.
Well, they're not hitting him in practice, but yeah.
Of course, that's true. Got to take care of Pat. All right, well, back with more news after this. Talk about flight delays. Astronaut Frank Rubio is finally back on Earth after more than a year in space. He was supposed to come back in March, but a coolant leak in his ride home, and he had to wait until now to leave the International Space Station. Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively reports from Washington.
Touchdown. Touchdown confirmed at 6:17 a.m. Central Time.
NASA astronaut Frank Rubio has finally ended his record-breaking stretch at the International Space Station. He touched down in Kazakhstan Wednesday after 371 days in space, longer than any other American.
It's good to be home.
It's a record that Rubio never intended to break. He was supposed to be at the space station for half a year, but his ride home got dinged by space junk and all the coolant drained out of the radiator. The next ship wasn't set to arrive for another 6 months, so Rubio's mission time was doubled. Had he known about the extra stay,
I just would have had to say thank you, but no thank you.
The Army doctor and helicopter pilot worked with an international crew, including Russian cosmonauts. While tensions between the U.S. and Russia flared back on Earth, it was a very different story 250 miles up in space.
For our international partners, it's been just incredible to work with all of them.
One of the biggest physical challenges for the crew was actually coming home. Rubio and 2 cosmonauts had to endure more than 4 times the force of gravity as their capsule entered the Earth's atmosphere. After landing, they were pulled out and carried to a medical tent.
We're not standing, we're not walking, we're not bearing our own weight, and so it just takes some time to get your bones and your muscles used to doing that consistently back on Earth.
After more than a year of zero gravity, Rubio says he expects it to take 2 to 6 months before he'll feel normal again here on Earth. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Talk about getting your sea legs back. Well, coming up, is it really laziness if it's a competition? We're going to check out the Lazy Olympics held in Europe. People are taking laziness to a whole new level at a competition in Southern Europe where slumber is the sport. As Tina Kraus reports, hitting the snooze button is what it's all about.
A sleepy village in Montenegro has opened its doors to the Lazy Olympics. To compete, all these athletes need is a mattress. I'm simply here for myself, says Jovan, who's taking a break from his job in marketing. I want to prove to myself I'm capable of pushing my limits. His slumbering skills have kept him going, while more than a dozen others have dropped out of the snooze fest that's been running for more than a month. Lilia says, I've been here for 800 hours already. I'll get up when I'm bored, but I'm not sure when that will be. There's a lot riding on this restful race. The winner takes a $1,000 prize. Jordana says she's managing to hold on. As for her husband, who's home with the kids, she says he tells me you're on vacation, stay in bed, and enjoy it. As time ticks away, the rules are simple. No sitting up or standing, and just one 15-minute bathroom break every 8 hours. Lilia says, my brother and parents came to beg me to stop, saying they'll give me the $1,000. But I said there's no chance. I'm staying until the end. In a country with a reputation for being laid back, organizers say the Lazy Olympics are the perfect tribute.
Well, this year's laziness competition shattered the relaxation record of 5 days, partly because of that bathroom break that they're giving. In prior years, there were no breaks at all. I wonder how many of them wet the bed. That's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We're going to leave you with video of police in upstate New York corralling some goats. All right, have a great night and an even better tomorrow.